Only in America.
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 This week, someone I'm very close with shows me the proper way to cut a mango, and she tells me about her early days as a newcomer to the United States and opening a physical therapy practice.
I tried to get a job. There were very few places where you could get a job as a therapist. Plus, we were not California licensed, so it was very difficult. So I decided to go out and find any job. I went to stores and wherever I could and filled in applications, and everywhere I was turned down because they said I was highly qualified.
From the National Immigration Forum, I'm Ali Noorani, and you're listening to a special Mother's Day episode of Only in America. I spent the past couple of months, leading up to Mother's Day, sheltering in place with my parents in Northern California to lend them a helping hand. Now, between cooking together and watching more episodes of the original MacGyver than I could ever count, I spent a lot of time with my mom. Those 2 months led me to realize that it's hard to live on the other side of the country from your parents and your siblings. You miss a lot of things: the celebrations, the arguments, the way people grow and change and become better. The physical separation leads you to miss so many of the things that come with family life. But I also realize my life is incredibly fortunate. I can get on a flight to see my family. With the press of a button, I can hear their voice. I can see their face. For the most part, my parents' generation did not have that kind of access to family when they immigrated to the U.S. Now, in the case of my parents, my father's brother was here. But other than that, as they built their American dream, my parents created their own community, developing at times unlikely but lifelong friendships. Staying connected to family back in Pakistan was not easy. An international phone call had to be booked days in advance. A flight was exorbitantly expensive. So, in light of Mother's Day and our recent focus on immigrant contributions to healthcare, this is a special 2-part episode of Only in America, where my mom, Najma Noorani, teaches me the proper way to cut a mango. She does come from a long line of fruit merchants, and she tells me her story of immigrating to the U.S. In part 1, we talk about her journey to the U.S., how she and my dad opened their physical therapy practice, and the neighbors that they met along the way who made California feel like home. And in part 2, Mom tells me more about the challenges she faced living on the other side of the world from her family. So what we're going to do here is something very, very... don't touch the mango. We are going to, via podcast, you're going to teach me how to properly cut a mango. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be other questions along the way. Okay? So, first of all, where did you learn how to cut a mango?
My father taught me.
What did your father do?
He was a fruit merchant.
Fruit merchant?
In India. They used to sell fruit. Mm-hmm. And they had a big store, Crawford Market, to sell fruit. That's all I know.
In Bombay?
In Bombay. He knew all about the different mangoes, and when we would get mangoes, he would be the one to cut them. Mm-hmm. Make sure all of us got a taste of all the different varieties.
What was your favorite variety of mango growing up in India?
God, I don't know. I was a baby. I don't remember.
But in Pakistan, you got mangoes?
Yeah, but I don't remember all the names.
So the legend has it that he could just look at a fruit cart and identify which was the ripe mango.
Mm-hmm. He grew up. His father was the fruit merchant, and so he used to work there when he was a young man, and so he learned from experience.
Okay, so when you see a mango, what's the first thing you look at?
Look at the color. Mm-hmm. Smell it, and when you smell the mango, it has to smell right, nice and sweet, and has to have a little softness to it, not absolutely squishy, but little. It shouldn't be too hard. If it's hard, then you're taking your chances.
Okay. So the first cut for when cutting a mango?
You just cut off the top.
Cut off the top? Okay. That's the
Yes.
part. Okay.
Just that much.
Yeah. Okay.
Oops, it's gone bad.
Uh-oh. We won't tell anybody. People can't see that.
Okay.
So okay, you grew up in Bombay. Okay, that's a good first cut. Wait till the next question. So you grew up in Bombay, moved to Karachi. When did you come to the States?
1971.
Were there mangoes in the States in 1971?
No,
No?
not really.
What was it like
Okay.
when you first came to the U.S.?
Couldn't find any food from our country. Anything we wanted, Indian or Pakistani food, you had to go to Berkeley. There was a couple of stores in Berkeley. We used to make a trip there every few months and stock up on lentils, dal. And when you were a baby, you had very, very bad colic. And the doctor used to say, take him for a drive, he'll go to sleep. Yeah, sure, he did. But you put him in the crib and he's up. Anyway, at home, babies with colic got what they call gripe water. It was minty, it was clear, but had a mint flavor, and that really helped. And we couldn't find it here, not even in the Indian stores. Finally, the doctor gave us a prescription, and I used to give you that. But you eventually outgrew it. But what I'm saying is, you just couldn't get anything here.
So I was born in '73. You came in '71. You were in Santa Cruz. What was it like being in Santa Cruz, having first arrived? Who was your first friend in Santa Cruz?
Gladys and Grandma Tam. Grandma Tam was much older than me, but she sort of took me under her wing because I didn't drive at that time. And, Dad used to go to work. I used to be at home alone. And my cousin, Wally, used to live in Santa Cruz. But when we moved to Santa Cruz, he transferred to Fresno, to the university there. But before he left, he said, I'm going to take you to the YWCA and introduce you to some people. Because at that time, the YWCA had this program where they adopted foreign students. So he took me there and he introduced me to a few people, Agnes and then Tam. And they got me involved with the Y. Tam used to pick me up, take me, bring me back. She became grandmother to all you kids. And Gladys, I met at the Y because they had another program which was called the Y Wives. And those were my first friends there.
Okay, second cut, then we'll come back to the questions.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh.
Did I start somewhere, didn't I?
No, you haven't started anywhere yet, just the top. Okay, so now you're cutting along the
Side.
the side, the big side, just straight down. Okay. I still think you need some new knives, Mom.
Huh?
I still think you need better knives. Now you go off the other side, straight down,
Straight down.
just right along the edge of the seed. Okay. Okay, so earlier you were telling me about 1971, and what's happening back home is the India-Pakistan War. Because I'd never heard this story. What month did you get to the U.S. in '71?
June 19th. And we came, and Uncle Hamid and Auntie Jenny picked us up, and we stayed with them for a month. I stayed longer because after a month, Dad got this job in Santa Cruz. So we got an apartment there and we were going to move. But Auntie Jenny was going to her brother's wedding in England. And the day before she left, the babysitter let her down. So I offered to babysit. So then I stayed in Livermore and Dad went to Santa Cruz and he used to come home for the weekends.
So how much longer were you in Livermore?
1 month. She was gone for a month.
And when does the war break out between India and Pakistan?
December of 71.
So in December of '71, you're in Santa Cruz, and the war breaks out. What's happening in Pakistan at that time?
Blackouts, just, Karachi, I don't think was affected very much, but there was bombing everywhere else. And the scary thing was we couldn't get any news because all communication had stopped. All we got was from the radio or the newspaper, but you couldn't believe everything they said. So
Fake news.
So, you just prayed that everything was okay. I think it lasted, I don't even remember how long it lasted. But then we found out that, Karachi was safe where we were from.
But you're sitting and listening to the radio day after day, hoping for news. And so Gladys, she comes over and says,
She says, "You can't sit here and listen to the news all day. Let's go." And she'd pick me up at about 8:39 in the morning and drive me around, take me to her house or whatever, and then bring me back home at 5:30. So I wouldn't be on my own all day. She's a very good friend. She still is.
so also in these 2 years, 71 and 73, you were trained as a physical therapist as well.
I tried to get a job. There were very few places where you could get a job as a therapist. Plus, we were not California licensed, so it was very difficult. So I decided to go out and find any job. I went to stores and, wherever I could and filled in applications, and everywhere I was turned down because they said I was highly qualified and they'd take the trouble of training me, and then if I found a job in my field, I would leave, which was, So I never found any work. Dad did all the work.
So then, okay, next cut for the mango. So you've got the big sides cut off. Now what?
Then, depending on how big the sides are, you cut them into two or three slices.
How is this any different from what I did the other day?
You messed it up.
But it looks just like this. I mean, it may have been.
I know, but they weren't equally presentable.
I see. It has to be
And
equally
then-
presentable.
Then you cut the side
Uh-huh.
like this. So there's some meat on this and some meat on the seed.
Oh, I was just a little too haphazard. Yeah. I was just trying to be, quick. So then, when did you move to Salinas?
I moved to Salinas in January of 75
Why did you move to Salinas?
because Dad had his job was contracts with different hospitals and things. And so he was driving to San Jose, Monterey, Salinas, Santa Cruz. But most of his work was in Salinas. And then it just happened that all his work was in Salinas. So then we decided that it didn't make sense for him to commute. So we just moved to Salinas.
So when he was driving from place to place, I mean, he was pretty much gone all day long. And you were stuck with a crying, colicky baby.
Yep.
Yeah. You're welcome.
By the time he came home, I would be crying with the baby. We didn't have any money. His salary was, 900. And by the time the taxes were withheld, we could pay our rent at the apartment
In Santa Cruz.
in Santa Cruz. And by the end of the month, we didn't have any money to buy groceries. We used to live on pasta. Just before you were born, at that time, the apartments we were in were adults only. We decided to buy a house, and we put every penny that we had into the house. But we moved from a furnished apartment into an empty house, and then had to get furniture. So we bought a sofa. I think we paid $20 for it. Box springs for $20, and we slept on the box springs till we could find a mattress that we could afford. Auntie Neelu gave us her dining table. When we were in the apartment, every month I could buy one thing for the kitchen. And so we had a few things in the kitchen. And my first big buy after we moved into the house was a washer and dryer, because I didn't want to go to the laundromat to wash dirty diapers. And then across the street from us, this older couple moved in. They were the other set of grandparents for you. Grandma Mary was very, very good at sewing and everything. So she taught me how to make fitted sheets and everything. She showed me how to make curtains for your room.
All right, so now we have a pile of mango in front of you. So you haven't tried the mango yet.
It looks good.
Looks good? It smells good?
It smells good.
All right, I'll take a piece. So then, you were telling me this earlier, but so when did you move into the house in Santa Cruz? Do you remember what year?
You were born in 73, so December 31st, 72, 1972.
Okay. And as you were telling me that the first anniversary gift that Dad got you.
Got me 2 Revereware stainless steel pots, and I still have one of them.
So when you moved to Salinas, what led you and Dad to decide to open a practice?
Dad he used to work for somebody in Santa Cruz. His first job was like a vacation relief, but his boss liked him so much, he did so well that he took him on full time. And he worked for Gene then Gene had these contracts with some big corporation for nursing homes, and the nursing homes were all over, and so Dad would do the nursing homes. Then the corporation asked Dad to take over the contracts, and then that's when we moved to Salinas. After we moved to Salinas, I think Dad still continued with the nursing homes for a while. Then he decided to open his own practice so he could see other patients also. And that's how he did it.
What was it like to open the business?
It was tough because physical therapy, you get patients only by referral. You know, people don't walk off the street without. He had to go meet the doctors, and he's a good therapist, so he made a good impression. Some of them who really liked him and sent all their patients to him. And then over the years, he developed other programs like the cardiac rehab and job evaluations and stuff like that.
Go ahead and try your mango.
My mango.
You did a fine job cutting it. All the pieces are perfectly apportioned. I remember the first office was by the hospital. It was that little brown building. It was a long hallway. I think I remember because there were some of the staff there that moved to the other office too. But yeah, I just remember growing up that Dad would always be working. You would duck out during the day to go to the office and help manage things. And
That was after we moved to Redwood.
oh, that's right. That was a bigger place.
With
Yeah.
the bigger place. After you get a little grown up. I used to do all his billing and stuff from home. And I used to do vacation relief. So when Gloria, who was the receptionist, used to go on vacation, I filled in. It was tough times, getting to know the doctors and getting referrals. And we went to the bigger office. It was very tough. There was a recession. We moved into this big place, which was a shell, and everything had to be built inside. And Dad had the contractors lined up, and I applied for a loan. It was approved, and at the last minute, those guys backed out. And then Obed Chacha helped us. And so the carpenter, Dad was the contractor himself. We'd tell him to do what he has to, but forget the cleanup. We'll clean up.
I remember cleaning up.
So at 5 o'clock, I used to take you 3, and we used to go clean up and pick up these blocks of cement because the floor was cement and it had to be broken. And they had a dumpster, and we used to throw it in there. And then at night, we used to go take you 3 and with sleeping bags and put you to sleep over there while we hung pictures and numbers and all those nitty-gritty stuff. And then the economy was so bad that we didn't have patients. So our expenses went up, income went down. So it was a struggle, but we survived it.
Did you ever think you'd lose it?
I had my fears, but Dad was optimistic and knew what he was doing. And it was a tough time. Take another one.
Go ahead.
No, take another one.
You get the seed.
Yeah, I get the seed.
What if I wanted the seed?
You can have the seed also then.
Support for the National Immigration Forum comes from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, supporting innovations in education, democratic engagement, and strengthening international peace and security. And from Humanity United. When humanity is united, we can bring a powerful force for human dignity.
Stick around for part 2 of my conversation with my mom. It's available now. And you can find more information about Only in America at our website, immigrationforum.org/podcast. And while you're there, subscribe to catch these episodes and many more. Only in America is produced and edited by Joanna Taylor and Megan Wetmore. I'm Ali Noorani, and I will talk to you in part 2.